Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting of Wednesday, February 4th, 2015. Can I have a roll call, please?
Salem Derby.
Present.
Daniel Hagan.
Present.
Jennifer Hayes.
Here.
J.P. Kwasinski. Joseph McCoy.
Here.
Daniel Rist.
Here.
Tamara Smith.
Here.
Joy Winnie.
Here.
Nathan Ziegler.
Present.
Will you please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of January 21st? A motion, a second with approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, let's see. Public speak time. If there's anyone here from the public who would like to address the council.
You're not
public. Please come forward.
Follow up on an email that I was sent last week regarding the Conway School. They're having a presentation tomorrow here in this room on Lower Mill Pond. They've been doing a watershed study, and so they've been doing a lot of research. They're looking at preliminary maps and some observations and ways that we can better, as citizens and the city, take care and improve the water quality of the pond. So this is the first project that the Conway School has been doing in East Hampton. As you know, that they're opening a second campus in Mill 180, so there'll be many planning projects to come, but this is the first one, and I hope that you'll consider coming to this event, and anybody from the public.
Oh, great, thank you. Time. Communications from elected officials, boards and committee. Councilor Rist.
I have just an announcement. Fall in love with winter. I don't know if that'll fly. East Hampton Winter Fest, which is going to be held by the Nashawanak Pond Steering Committee in association with the Greater East Hampton Chamber of Commerce, is going to be held on Saturday, February 14th. It's a day filled with both outdoor and indoor activities for young and old. And we celebrate winter, nature, and East Hampton's role in the ice industry. So you should connect with the East Hampton City website or the NashawanakPond.org website to get details. That's Saturday, February 14th. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mayor Communications, Mayor Ketcher.
Oh, wait a minute. Jennifer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that they're also desperately looking for some volunteers for that event as well, if anybody is interested in helping them out.
Okay.
Before the mayor, could I just,
Of course.
I saw a couple of things the last couple of weeks, and since we have time this evening, I just wanted to mention a couple. I read where the East Hampton Jazz Band placed 6 out of 15 schools down in Boston, and only 3 came from Western Mass out of 188 schools. I just thought, we have a very small band, but it's always a very energetic band, and I'd just like to congratulate them. And also, at Marlborough College, there was a beautiful Minds Challenge that some of the high school students from all across the country participated in. And Devin Casper and Jordan Dermandi came in second in their abandonment about the factory complex on Ferry Street. I think it's on the Good News page.
Yep.
And the article and the video were very
Yeah,
entertaining. And
good.
also, Andrew Conley received an honorable mention for his video, Resurrection of Art, in the same competition. So I just wanted to mention those because I always, when young people do something special,
Yeah.
I think we should help them out.
No, it's nice for our size community how well we do statewide and nationally sometimes. Councilor Whitney.
Counselor, I just want to say, the band is not that small.
Small it is. You could,
My daughter's in the 6th grade band at Whitebrook, and they are big.
I always say small because sometimes
Big.
in like the parade you see the big city schools that have the
Yeah.
large unit after unit.
They're big.
We have a big noise too.
Yeah, they're
Thanks.
good.
Did I see your hand, Councilor Smith? Or no?
Oh, I just wanted to mention that this weekend is the high school production of Kiss Me
Kiss Me
Kate.
Kate, yep.
So there will be tickets available at the door, and you can also call up the school, and they'll direct you to who to get tickets for advance tickets as well.
Great, thank you.
That's what, Friday, Saturday,
Mayor
and Sunday.
Kedger, now I guess we're ready for you if you're something for us.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to update you on a couple of issues from the Mass Municipal Association meeting in Boston that was on January 24th. We had some private meetings. The Mayor's Association had some private meetings with U.S. Senator Warren and U.S. Congressman Capuano. That part was very, very bleak, coming from the federal level. Basically, to make a long story short, whatever funding you don't have now, you will not be receiving, and you're lucky to get any of what you have now, you're lucky to maintain it. So that was pretty bleak. After that, Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito seemed a little bit much more uplifting. Obviously talking about the $764 million deficit that had been at one time $329 million. That what would happen is they stood up in public and made sure that they made the oath that they would not be touching local aid, which, is a very big statement. And for us, worried about getting mid fiscal year cuts, it was extremely good news. However, when I just was looking at the latest information regarding, and this is regarding fiscal 15 deficits, because I'm so concerned about our existing budget. So not hitting local aid sounds great, but I can't help thinking, well, where is it going to hit? Yeah. So, exactly. Yeah. So when they're talking about local aid, that's really good news. But what they're talking about now, a lot of different ways where he's going to, take care of the existing deficit. Well, 9C cuts, you hear 9C cuts here and there, and I just happened to start reading some of them. And this is what really concerns me, the non-cherry sheet ones. And again, it talks about the formula. Very first thing, which is always one of my major concerns, is a reduction in charter school reimbursements. So if they don't consider that local aid, Melissa and I certainly do. So that is so difficult for us. We struggle with that every year. So, and not only does 9C affect charter, the very next thing, there's a couple of different things, but I just thought, I pulled out the ones that really kind of floored me. Special ed circuit breaker. Circuit breaker. So, here we go. But anyway, hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm glad to hear all the really positive announcements. And any questions that you might have, because the other thing that the governor was talking about that was really excited about is he does not believe in any unfunded mandates. But we went, which was very good news to me, until I went to one of the mandate seminars, and JP was there, and Melissa too. We ended up all at the same one that day. Most of these issues are not unfunded mandates, because the issues that hit us the hardest, with our schools, are considered ed reform. So, or DESE, which, are exempt. So you'll notice that there's some, actually they're calling it senator tours. What are they calling it? Commonwealth conversations. Yeah. It's it's planned by Stan Rosenberg and Senator Humison. And I know they're meeting tonight. Unfortunately, it's our city council meeting, and to me that takes precedent. But and I also hate going to meetings late. So they'll be going through the area, again. But I think everybody does need to know that we meet really like weekly with Senator Humison. Representative Syback just popped into, actually he wanted to pop into the city council meeting last week, but he had the wrong meeting. He showed up at finance. So, we are right on target as to discussions with them. They certainly know where because all these discussions, you'll hear Commonwealth discussions, senator tours, these are all about what are the community's needs. Well, we are very loud and clear about what we need. And we couldn't be any more black and white. So we'll keep on, and again, the MMA, most of these updates come from the MMA, which is a fantastic organization, and they don't stop, bringing in legislators, constantly lobbying, and so I just want you to know that we're on top of it, but again, I'm, very, very concerned, and at the least, I was hoping to scoot through this year, but at the very least, I'm more than concerned with our fiscal 16 budget. Any
Yeah, I have a
did you have any
quick question for you.
questions?
So does it look like the 9 C cuts are inevitable, or is this something you were just thinking, well, if they're not taking local aid, this is what we're left with?
No, this is the plan to cut the 700, actually, it went up again. It was 760, it was 329 million for the state deficit. Then it went up to 765 million. Now it's 768 million. So this is the plans. Governor Baker files plan to close out the 15 deficit. And in it, is all the good news at the beginning, local aid, local aid, local aid. And as soon as you start getting down a little further, however, there are several 9C reductions to non-cherry sheet accounts that are important to cities and towns. And to our city and town, well, to our city, charter school reimbursement happens to be the top one on their list, which is the top one on our list too. So, again, as far as charter and school choice, I absolutely believe that every parent should have the right to educate their child in any way, shape, or form, but I believe the state should pay for it. I don't believe the state should should use our public education funds to fund, choice and charter. So it's very difficult for us. Just looking at last year, like 1.8 million, what we could do with our public education funds with that money. So, I'm very concerned. Obviously, the superintendent is, but I just want everybody to know that there are forums everywhere. We just talked about it last night at one of the meetings, Jen and Joy. And there was a school forum with the superintendents just a couple of weeks ago. And she's putting together a letter, like what they're looking for, what the state is looking for. It's not just complaining about, we need. What are solutions? So, we're putting together, a statement from the superintendent's office, my office, and Joy had suggested the city council also, again, with solutions on what can resolve some of these issues that really are crippling us.
Councilor Winnie, sorry.
Well, my suggestion last night was, once the superintendent and the mayor get their letters formed up, that we sister on to whatever letter the superintendent puts out there, so that we make it very loud and clear that the city side and the school side are both together having these concerns put forth.
And we are.
Yeah,
we definitely
we absolutely are. So
it definitely is. It's one city.
yeah.
Sounds great. I'm sorry, Councilor Riss and Councilor
Who's first?
You.
Are the 9C cuts subject to legislative approval, or are they Baker's, he can do them without legislative approval? Do you know?
That's a very good question. Let me just see if it mentions anything in here about that as we go down.
Because obviously, if it's legislative approval, those letters will mean something, and
Right.
we can really appeal. Although they're going to have to take the money from someplace.
Right, exactly.
Don't say you're
But-
going to not take it from cities and towns and then do that.
Right. Well, they don't consider that local aid, but we do. So again, this is I just printed this. This is as of today, by the way, and I just printed this, and this is just a list of his plans. So, but it's the first list of plans that shows me that I still need to be worried.
Okay.
Councilor Hayes.
Very similar question to yours. Since you're meeting with Senator Humison weekly, you said?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're
Jen.
meeting with Senator Humison weekly?
Well-
What was his opinion on the 9C cuts?
Well,
How
actually,
is he gonna help?
this just came out today, as I was saying. I just printed it, actually, just this afternoon, and you know what, I actually meant to make a copy so that you would all have it. It's off the, it's from the Mass Municipal Association, too, but still, I wanted to just hand out a quick copy so you guys could review it, too, and then hop on the website. But as you know, like Dan knows, we do our own coffee hours. I'm telling you, good thing I drink decaf, because I have like 3 coffee hours that I do. One with the Council on Aging every month. One I started a new one with businesses. We do a business one every month, and with the Chamber of Commerce. And I also do one that I had started on my own, just, a mayor's coffee hour that Council President Joe McCoy is there. Dan Hagan is usually there with his wife. And we also have Representative Syback joins me now. Senator Humison joins me. So, we're always there to, collaborate, and actually, I was just speaking to his office today before this came out. So I don't know what's going to come up tonight, and he had sent me a text about the meeting tonight. But again, these are just, forums to discuss things. I mean, we already know these issues, so I'll be talking to him tomorrow to see, what form of action that, they're going to do on their end. But they definitely, without a doubt, support our communities. But still, I think we all knew, $768 million, it's going to come from somewhere. And we were thrilled that that other $100 million from transportation funds was released. We're thrilled. I mean, that should have been released the last couple of years. It was held back. But I mean, those are designated funds for the communities, and we were glad to get our share. But in the meantime, I just like to give you an update that, and I hate to be the Grim Reaper, but budgets are upon us.
Yeah, it's reality, right? Okay, any other questions for the mayor? Okay, thank you. Well, I guess we're already ready for public hearings, so
I'll move the public hearings be open.
Second.
motion and second to open public hearings. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Councilor Hagan.
First public hearing tonight's interdepartmental transfer. I'll do a second reading on it. It's dated December 30th, 2014. The request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested is $8,000, and to be transferred from the reserve fund and transferred to Fire Department Building and Equipment, $500, Fire Department Radio and Telephone, $1,000, Fire Department Repairs to Vehicles, $3,000, and Ambulance Repairs to Vehicles, $3,500, for the total of $8,000. The amount requested be used for the following purpose: to fund an unanticipated expenditures in the fire and ambulance departments. There is a sheet on the back which kind of breaks down what the fire chief is looking for. These are were unexpected expenses. Again, it's kind of a common theme that we've had most meetings where a lot of our equipment's old and things break down. I know, like, if you read the first one, they want to replace the air hoses and electrical cords that have been there since the public safety building was first instituted. And all the lights were out at the flagpole, so they put in more efficient LED lighting, but, at a cost of $486, but hopefully, given the LED lights, we won't be back here 10 years from now, or maybe 10 years from now, but hopefully not sooner than that with the LED lighting. And then with the radios and telephones, the pagers went out just because they're old and they can't be repaired, because they're so old they can't get parts. That's another recurring theme we have with a lot of our equipment. And then the usual with the vehicle repairs, a problem with a ladder, with hydraulics, problem with the car one, with a water pump, and then he does list some other items that are not in good shape, which you probably will see before the too long, of things that he is not doing yet but are in trouble. And finally, the repairs to the vehicle is for an ambulance, and they need a backup set of tires because their backup set they have to use now. And again, we can't with fire equipment and ambulance equipment. I don't think we could skimp. But that said, I certainly would leave it up to the mayor. I know the fire chief couldn't make it tonight. If the mayor wanted to expand upon that.
Well, I think Dan described it perfectly, but I mean, coming after this whole thing, I'm just telling you about our budgets, and then the first transfer, the first public hearing, he's talking about, this is broke, this is falling apart. This is just a perfect example of how many years we've been cut. This is exactly like, I think everybody is tired of it, This is a perfect example of us making do on what we have. We have to balance our budget. Fortunately, we don't have a $768 million deficit, but we have to balance our budget. And when we balance it, like, the maintenance line items, I mean, we go line item to line item as a finance subcommittee, and the rest of the councilors know. And these are where cuts are made, and this is what happens. And, obviously, the first thing that goes out the door is a lot of, as you'll see, the different vehicles, not only maintenance, but the different vehicle replacements that come to you. We've got a doozy coming soon. But, it's all because of just being so short for so long.
Okay. If there's anyone else from the public who would like to address the council concerning this appropriation, feel free to come to the podium. Okay, not being seen, Councilor Hagan.
I will just one more comment, and then I'll make a motion that this was approved by the subcommittee on a 2-0 vote. Hearing that, I'll make a motion that the City Council approve a request of $8,000 from the reserve fund in that amount to the following: Fire Department Building and Equipment, Fire Department Radio, Telephone, and other communication, Fire Department repairs to vehicles, and ambulance repairs to vehicles, all adding up to a total of $8,000. The amount requested to be used for the following: to fund unanticipated expenditures in the fire and ambulance department.
Second.
A motion, a second for the $8,000 departmental transfer. Any additional discussions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. I believe the next one is also
Our
yours.
second public hearing tonight's a little larger request, and this is a supplemental appropriation. Again, I'll also do a second reading on this one. It's a supplemental appropriation dated December 29th, 2014. Request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested is $400,000 and to be appropriated from CPA Open Space in the amount of $52,800.52 and CPA Undesignated Fund of $347,199.48 to be appropriated to the Manhattan Rail Trail Corridor Improvement, in that amount $400,000. The amount requested be used for the following purpose: to fund improvements to the Manhattan Rail Trail Corridor. I know the planner's here, and she certainly could speak to this in more detail and answer any of your questions. It is a third, all three of us were at this particular meeting. It is a third round of funding, basically behind the mills, where it was done in steps. This is the final funding. The total project was, I believe, in excess of $7 million. So this is the first time we've really put any city money in, and what this is really to improve, after they do the parking, to improve the rail trail, access from the rail trail by bicycle and pedestrian into the mills, also to the pond, and some lighting. But I'll let the planner...
Pretty much it.
Too good that day.
So, I mean, I can answer any questions that you have about the project. The project is quite extensive in terms of the MassWorks funding. We've been funded 3 consecutive years in a row, 2012, 2013, 2014. The first appropriation that we received from MassWorks program was for $2.75 million. That project's now been completed. That was for infrastructure improvements behind the mills, complete electrical upgrade. All of the mill owners also put in all of their own private money to upgrade their buildings to meet the new electrical upgrade. All of the overhead wires and all of the old transmissions that were sparking as people were biking underneath of them are now gone. There was also all new water lines that were put in for fire suppression. So this was really addressing some of the public safety issues for the mills. We had fire trucks that couldn't access the residential units in the back of the mills because of the lines, and the water system was not as adequate as it needed to be. So that work has now been completed as of December of last year. We're moving forward now with the final portion of this project. We received $1.5 million in 2013 and $2.9 million in 2014 from the MassWorks program. What these funds are to be used on the MassWorks side is for stormwater and drainage. There's no drainage system behind the mills right now. Everything just basically sheet flows into Lower Mill Pond. So this will be huge improvements in terms of stormwater in this area. Also, a large, big ticket item is a retaining wall that will be built the entire length of the mills on the bike trail side, which will allow us then to fill in the dirt and expand the parking out. There'll be upwards of about 400 parking spaces behind the mills. This will allow the mill owners to now fully build out these buildings. What they've been saying since the get-go is, we've got people interested, but if they don't have the parking to supply their client base, they're not going to move in. And so this will allow them to attract a higher, some tenants that may not have been previously interested. Also, the electrical upgrades have already attracted new tenants to the buildings. The mill owners have said to me that that it's now a plug-and-play system. They don't have to be going all over the country looking for transformers to transform one electrical to the next. So it's, even the first phase has had a big economic benefit in this area. And it's not just the mill owners themselves. There are hundreds of tenants in these buildings. There are lots of small businesses that are located in here. It's kind of like a hidden Main Street. Once you start getting in there, it's kind of amazing how much is happening in those mills from a business perspective. So what we're asking for is when we went forth for the third round, the state said to us, you know, this is great, you've been on task, you've stayed on budget, you've stayed on construction schedule. However, if you want any more money from this program, the city's got to put some skin in the game. So what we'd like to do, and this has been part of the initial proposal, was to use CPA funds to enhance the connections between the rail trail and the mills themselves. Right now, the designs are looking at 3 access points, all ADA compliant. You can basically ride your bike up these access points and access the back of the mills. Also, this another element is to provide lighting from the first mill, beyond Mill 180, basically where the Legion is, all the way down to Union Street, providing lighting along the bike trail. This has been something that residents have wanted for a long time. I have multiple planning documents that highlight it as something that people have wanted. So this will help hopefully alleviate some vandalism issues that happen often in Millside Park, and just open up that whole area. The funds will also be used, due to the drainage systems, we're going to be creating a couple detention basins on the pond side of the bike trail, and we'd like to provide some access paths so that people can go down there, sit, look at the pond, have a nice view, and just provide some additional gathering spaces in these areas that are already going to be disturbed because we need to disturb them for stormwater management. And so that's what the $400,000 request is for those 3 elements, to the connections from the trail to the mills, for the lighting, and then for the pathways on the pond side of the trail.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for
I have a
City Planner?
How many public parking spots are down there now for
Right
the
now,
town?
well, there's nothing striped, it's just gravel, so it's, you know, you could say there's,
No, right next to the Millside Park, there's a parking lot.
in the public parking, in the one for the, I think for about 40 spaces.
And we're
46
going to be able to
spaces.
retain those?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, those are not going anywhere.
Any additional questions or comments for City Planner?
There was one question at finance and I wasn't sure at Jessica, if you had made a determination of what type of lighting is going to go in. I know that you were looking at it, and I don't
Yeah.
know if at one point you ever had decided what you thought would go in.
What we're looking at right now is the lighting that was installed in front of Eastworks, that was actually installed with another public money grant through the planning office prior to my time. We're looking to replicate that, so there's at least some sort of visual connection between that lighting on one side of Eastworks and then the lighting on the other side. And it will be a dual head, so our thoughts is that we'll be putting lighting on the edge of the parking lot, so it'll light the parking lot on one side and it will light the bike path on the other, and then there will be sort of the same style, probably just one-headed the rest of the way down to Union Street.
Just for the bike and obviously not the neighbors.
Exactly, exactly.
Councilor Smith?
You had mentioned that the state said that they would not be forthcoming with any more funds unless the city also put forth funds. Can you speak a bit to what additional funds after this you're hoping to apply for, and what improvements would be included?
Sure. So ECA Plus also committed $10,000 to public art for this project for our grant submission. In terms of ongoing maintenance, which I should probably mention, I mentioned it at the Finance Subcommittee meeting, but the mill owners have agreed to put in $3,000 annually to upkeep this section of the rail trail. So they'd be providing that money directly to the Friends of the Rail Trail, and then they would use that. So that's additional money that's going in. And then all of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that the private landowners have actually put into improving their own building is, and they paid for the pre-design of this project. They hired the designer and had it designed prior to the grant submission. So all of that money came out of their pockets, not the city's. Just one more match, Wamiko has also been a key player in this project. They received payment through the first MassWorks, but they have also put in around $3 million of their own funds to upgrade all of the electrical systems that feed this area. This was work that was probably 10 years out on their radar screen, but because of this project, they have upgraded the systems that feed it and all of the substations. So that's another huge benefit to the city that, you know, we've touted to the state that the utility is even putting skin in the game here at this point. So, does that answer your question? Mostly.
I think that answered the justification for the 400,000, but I just wasn't sure if there was a carrot that the state was holding out, that if we put this 400, you'll be likely to get such and such afterwards, or if we
No, it
don't
was,
have-
it was to secure this third round of funding. So if this doesn't go through, they could theoretically pull the grant.
Uh-huh.
Councilor Riss.
I just wanted to comment on that, because what impressed me the most was, this is a $7.242 million project, and we only had to pony up $400,000 for that. And it's a huge project where the grants for this are unlikely to be matched in any other community. This is a feather in the cap of the planner to get all these grants, and I am so thrilled with also the private-public partnership in the Finance Committee that was detailed, which she just outlined. That is, it's incredible, and we are getting improvements which will eventually give us economic development, improve our tax base. All of this is what planning does for us. So maybe to answer your question, Counselor, in the sense that we got 7.2 million. For us to get another grant is unlikely in the near future, but I don't put it past Jessica for getting any grant now. I think she'll get whatever she asks for, because she's managed to pull together a coalition of people to get this job done. So if we have another project that needs it. And I wanted to point out, because I have the floor now, that to anybody watching, these CPA funds are being properly used and cannot be used, once again, for any other infrastructure improvement in the city, like the roads or anything else. These are being used to fund a project that no other funds we couldn't possibly afford. So I want the community to know that they're properly being used and well used. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Riss. Hagan.
I'd just like to echo a little what Councilor Riss said about the planner's role in this, and I know oftentimes we're accused of not being business friendly, and I think this is a perfect example of when the city works with business, everybody wins, that it's going to be a good project for business, but it's also going to be a good project for the city, and I think it just shows if you collaborate, you can get something that's worthwhile for all the residents plus the businesses to begin. So I will echo that.
Thank you. Councilor Smith.
I have one other question about the lighting. I just want to verify that that does not mean that the rail trail will be open after dark, just as for safety.
I think there are people who are using it after dark right now anyway as commuter. I mean, that section of the trail is a major commuter route.
very
Now
busy.
that the spur is open to Northampton. So, and even when we shut down the trail last year during construction, there were still people trying to push through with baby carriages with, pipes being swung through. So it's a very well used. I don't know about the regulations regarding shutting it down after night, but.
We do. Mayor Cadger?
That just reminded me of one thing. We had a meeting, also a meeting with Jessica and the designer, and the Manhan Rail Trail regarding, obviously, when this project starts, it'll shut down the rail trail, and they've agreed, we definitely would need an alternate route. So this is going to shut down the rail trail for quite a while. It would probably be, the whole season, like from spring till winter. So, but that being said, also I wanted to make a note, and I wonder if you even remember, Jessica, we were interviewed on this project by Business West.
Yes.
And there was actually an article, they came to my office and interviewed Jessica and I, because this particular project, it was in Business West magazine, and it is the perfect example. When you talk about partnerships with the city and with business, and then with utilities, that's pretty incredible for the business owners, the mill owners to be putting in a lot of their private dollars, the utility company to be putting in, and actually, as Jessica had said, these upgrades wouldn't have happened for many years down the road. And then the only stake in this city, the only, as I like to use Jessica's word, the only skin in the game, was for the $400,000 from CPA, which is a fantastic use of CPA funds. So the city, out of $7.2 million, has not put in anything other than the $400,000 of CPA money suggested. So I cannot commend Jessica enough, publicly recognize our city planner. I cannot tell her how much I appreciate what she has done, but to get Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 of a MassWorks grant is pretty incredible. So, so I just wanted to publicly, recognize her, even though we recognize her on a Monday through Thursday basis, but I think it's past incredible, so.
Well, we get to reappoint her at appointment, so you'll hear more of this at appointments.
Yeah, hang around.
Whatever we're paying her, it's not.
Any more questions for the city planner?
The funds that are being put together by the owners, they're each putting in $3,000 a year
For
to
the
maintain.
maintenance, yes. So
Will
and
that include plowing?
No, there's no discussion about plowing at this point.
And it'll be from Ferry Street to Union Street that they'll be responsible for?
I think they want to be responsible for the segment directly behind their buildings. I think that's what they're most invested in. The money goes to the Friends, so and that's their initial set of money that they said $3,000. If it takes $5,000 a year to maintain that segment, that's what they'll put in. They're willing to put in the money because they want to make sure it only helps their business if it.
So they'll put in the money towards the Friends of the Manhattan Rail Trail, but it'll be earmarked for only certain items?
I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe you can speak.
Well, I was just going to say, you might want to mention this, but right now, I don't know if you realize, but what city funds are we putting in maintaining the rail trail? This is an issue that I look at every year, for maintenance of the rail trail itself. So you'll notice, I don't see any line items in there. So a lot of it is volunteers, excuse me?
One line.
Yeah, but a lot of it, but a lot of it is, the volunteers, and it's something that, it's one of those things that I really wish that we could step up and really, maintain it in the manner that we would like to, but again, we're back to where we put our funds.
Right, that's why I was asking, if they're going to be willing to put money towards this program,
Right.
can the people on that committee determine where the funds are spent? Or are they specifically earmarked for a specific area to those donors?
And just so you know, the committee is, I would say, exuberant, that the mill owners are even this is an offer for them to even maintain that area. So this is a huge plus for us. This is something that's not happening now.
I'd like to sort of leave that agreement between the mill owners and the Friends, and we've discussed that there's got to be some sort of form of invoicing, there's got to be a formal agreement that's drawn up, so I'd rather leave it to them to figure out what the details of that agreement are going to be, rather than speak to it now without having a solid idea of what the thoughts are. I know that they want their back building to be maintained. I think that, I don't know if they would have an issue with it going all the way down to Union Street. It's basically for mowing. The cost is for mowing. So I'd like to leave that to the Rail Trail Committee and the mill owners to negotiate and not talk about it here, if that makes sense.
Councilor Winnie?
Well, no, this isn't for you, Jessica, maybe for Melissa or for the mayor. Years ago, when they put the rail trail in and we were negotiating with certain entities, namely Tri-County, Tri-County wanted to have access across the rail trail so that they could get to their school. And at that time, I was on finance, we negotiated that they pay the city an easement fee, which should be coming into the city yearly, so.
Which I bill for every year, and it comes in timely. Within not even 2 weeks, I send the invoice, it comes in. I have it on my tickler forever.
Any additional questions for either the mayor or the city planner? No, I guess that's it. So if there's anyone from the public who would like to address the council concerning this appropriation, feel free to come to the podium. Okay, not being seen. Councilor Hagan, as with an H.
Just one further comment before I make a motion. This was approved. There were no negative votes. A couple of people were not there from the CPA committee. There were no negative votes. Also, the Rail Trail Committee was supportive, and the Finance Subcommittee was supportive, 3-0. So, with that said, I'll make the following request from the City Council fund the supplemental appropriation of $400,000 and appropriate from the CPA open space and the CPA undesignated funds for a total of $400,000 and appropriated to the Manhattan Rail Trail corridor improvement, and that amount $400,000, and the amount requested to be used for the following purpose: to fund improvements to the Manhan Rail Trail Corridor.
Second. Okay, a motion, a second for the $400,000 supplemental appropriation. Any additional comments? Not being seen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
Mr. President, move the public hearings be closed.
Second. Second, motion, a second, close public hearings. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. I guess we're at standing reports and standing committees. Councilor Risk, Rules of
No
Regulations.
report this evening, Mr. President.
Finance, Councilor Hagan.
Yes, our next meeting will be a week from tonight, February 11th, in Room 1 at 6 p.m. And we will be taking up the city council budget request that we'll send to the mayor. And also, we'll be taking up a replacement pickup truck for the highway department supervisor. And in that regard, I'd like to set a public hearing for February 18th for the $36,000 replacement pickup truck for the highway supervisor. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
And a second. Okay, a motion, a second, set public hearing on February 18th for the $36,000 replacement pickup truck for the highway supervisor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
And I believe there's no new business involving finance, so that will be it for this evening from finance.
Okay, public safety, Councilor Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, the 12th, at 6:30 p.m. And we have two items on our agenda. It's the request for the street acceptance for the Paul Street extension and the review of our street acceptance protocol, which has been ongoing. And I would like to make a motion to get an extension for both of these, a 60-day extension for each on those
Second.
items.
Okay, a motion, a second, Dave. Motion, a second for a 60-day extension on both the topics in the agenda of public safety. Any additional discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
This concludes.
Okay, thank you. Appointments, Councilor Winning.
Yes, we met tonight at 5:30, and what we decided to do was to take the 5 appointments and vote on them separately, knowing that each appointment to these specific committees were, in fact, very important. So we started with the first appointment, which was for Jessica Allen to be reappointed as our city planner. And in our appointment subcommittee meeting, there was a lot of accolades going around the table about how pleased we are with Jessica's securing of their grants and what a good job she's been doing for the city, and she's just bumped us right up on the scale of from 1 to 10 to the 10. So, and I'm sure that there's the other 2 counselors that were in the committee have something to add to that. So, it did come out of our committee with a 3-0 approval of that appointment, but I'll hand it over to my fellow counselors. So,
Smith, did you want to comment?
I would echo everything that Joy just said. I have heard from a lot of people that they have had a positive experience working with your department and working with you, and particularly the amount of community resources that you've been able to bring to East Hampton. I say community resources because you pull in from so many different grant sources and utilize such a cross-section of businesses and municipality that it really has created a vibrant community. And I really feel that that should be commended as the city planner, and noted that we've really seen a lot of changes and a lot of growth in the city and a lot of improvements. So I was very heartily supportive of this. So.
And of course, I agreed. It's funny that this previous conversation touched on a lot of things. Your outstanding grant work, your ability to pull in business and involve with some of these projects. And so kudos again.
your ears had to have been ringing. So I'll make it in the form of a motion that we appoint Jessica Allen, city planner, with her term of expiration and not lifelike, to December 31st, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion, a second for the appointment of Jessica Allen, city planner. Comments, Councilor Rist?
Well, I'm going to make a comment that maybe it's out of my purview, but when somebody this good is out there in the public domain, and people know, and I know they know how good Jessica has been retaining these grants, they're going to challenge us to retain her. Whatever you have to do, this counselor will support. And I know that we don't have the budget, but seriously, I worry that when we have a great finance director, for instance, we have great people in all our departments. It used to be said by our former mayor that we have competitive salaries. I don't know if that's true or not, but I also know that we have a need to challenge ourselves to maintain the quality of our department heads, and in this case, I certainly urge you to look at that. I hope Jessica will also let us know if we're being challenged to retaining her services. I really, really do appreciate her work. We're in a motion, I'm sorry.
That's right.
But I'll ask the president to allow her to speak after we vote on it.
Well, she's going to be up again so next appointment we'll have her throw in. Councilor Hagan.
Just a couple of comments. I know in the past, Jessica and I have had differences of opinion, but I will always say it's always been respectful. And I will say that what I have been impressed by Jessica is, and I know a lot of people are talking about the grants, is how much better the record keeping and minutes have become in that department. Because when people, I think it's whether people have different views or not, I think it's always important that they have the information. I think there's nothing worse than going down looking for information and not being able to find it. So I will thank you for that, Jessica.
Any additional comments from the councilor?
I wanted to echo that comment that not everybody agrees in planning. Planning's a very difficult position. You're going to deal with people who want development, don't want development, the whole gamut. It's important to have someone in that position who can listen to everybody, be attentive to everyone's needs, and get them the information that they need so that the council can be making the decision, so that the citizens can be informed, the council can be informed, and that's important. That's what we want to see. I think we've had a great planning department, both in this administration and the previous one, so I'm heartily in favor of it.
Any other comments before we take the vote? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Second appointment is Jessica Allen to the Commission on Disability for December 31st, 2017. Now, I took the lead on that conversation as being 7 years ago, as you may or may not have remembered. I was incapacitated with a broken leg in a wheelchair for like 6 months, and I really came to appreciate disability buildings that had elevators and wide openings and handicap bathrooms, and so, it's a little bit different being in that position when you're wheeling yourself around in a wheelchair, as opposed to being upright, standing and moving around. And I've heard nothing but good things about Jessica. She knows the ADA laws, and she's always right there to share those federal mandates, which are truly intricate. So I was fully in favor of this appointment. So, and I think my other two fellow colleagues also echoed. I think you had something to add to that.
Oh, I very specifically thought that being on the Commission on Disability was a really good fit for the city planner because of all the conversations that we've had in our joint meetings about codes particularly, and what assessments need to be made on buildings in order to make them accessible, and the timelines included and the barriers. So I think that your knowledge as the planner is really important on the commission as well.
Echo that as well, and Mayor Cadgett, I'll give you the opportunity, since we don't have a motion on the table, if you would like to address what you wanted to say before, speak at the perfect time.
Well, I would like to just address what Councilor Riss was talking about, and I think he was kind of mentioning, are our wages comparable? The truth is, no, they're not. Maybe some of ours are, but most of ours are not. And that is exactly where you're hinting at why, we do lose, really very, very skilled career employees to other communities. But I also thought it might be a good time to mention that, we're talking about the Mills grants. This is just a little section of the grants that she's received. We're not talking the promenade, you're not talking about the infrastructure in New City. I mean, it kind of goes on and on. But honestly, I know that you are aware that our city employees, our pay plan employees, don't even have their full hours back. And I am, one of the things that I can do, and I do, is I'm very selective. When I see employees that go way above and beyond with their time, and, those are employees that I can, provide, them back to their original hours. So, when you have employees that are working 70 hours instead of 34, it's just, to me, pretty obvious of, where to go from there. So there are some things we can do. Unfortunately, we don't have the leverage. The pay code it's an ordinance. We don't have the leverage to change grades and codes and all that. So to answer that question, and obviously from where I started tonight, a lot of times our hands are very tied on issues like this. So I think public recognition is, again, the least we can do.
Right, exactly. Okay, thank you. So I'll get back to you, Councilor Winning, I believe.
Yep, so I'll put it in form of motion to appoint Jessica Allen to the Commission on Disability through December 31st, 2017.
Second.
Okay, motion a second for the appointment of Jessica Allen to the Commission on Disability. All those, any further discussion? Councilor Hagan.
Just one quick comment. I see that Jessica, before she's even approved, has something on our agenda telling us how we can get ahead of us. So I appreciate that already.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you. Alita Kennedy to the Commission on Disability, December 31st, 2017. As her letter stated, she has intimate knowledge as to the barriers that are set forth with people with challenging disabilities. We looked at her letter of acceptance, and we all felt 3-0 that she would also be a good fit for the Commission on Disability. So I'm going to make it in the form of the motion that we appoint Alita Kennedy to the Commission on Disability through December 31st, 2017.
Second.
Okay, a motion a second with appointment of Alita Kennedy to the Commission on Disability. Any additional comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you. The next two appointments, this is why we took them separately, are controversial, to say the least, to the boards. So the first appointment was Jessica Harwood to the Conservation Committee, with the appointment going through till December 31st, 2017. Jessica comes with us with a very good background in conservation and working with the federal government as well as local. She is a teacher, a 6th grade teacher, and she has worked in environmental education and trail work for three summers with the state of Massachusetts in partnership with the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and also with working on federal lands in Vermont, Washington, California. And she's passionate. She's a citizen of East Hampton, and I'm going to remind everybody that the people that step forth to come on these boards are doing it as a non-paid, thank you very much, volunteer position. And so we appreciate these people that have all of the knowledge and the education in these specific areas to come forth and volunteer their time to the city. So we voted 3-0 to come forth with that recommendation, and I will make it in the form of a motion so that we can carry on the discussion. Jessica Harwood, Conservation Commission, through December 31st, 2017.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second with approval of Jessica Harwood to the Conservation Commission. Any additional comments, questions? Councilor Rist?
I just have a question. You commented that it was controversial appointment. I'm not sure what you meant.
No,
by
no,
that.
no, not the appointment, the committee.
The committee's it's a tough committee to be on.
It's a tough committee
what I
to
thought
be
you
on,
meant.
yeah.
Okay.
The two committees that we're making the appointments to, they can be at times, yes.
Well, I just have to
The
comment.
committees, not the appointment, no.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
clarification.
no. I'm sorry if I,
Waiting
yeah,
for a button.
I
alluded to that.
I have to
Sorry.
say, when we get lucky enough to have someone of this quality want to be on a committee that might have some controversy behind it or some challenges, shall we say, it's great that we have someone with this kind of knowledge because it means that we're going to get good service, good recommendations from this person, in my mind, anyway. Thank you.
Any additional comments, question? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion passes.
And the fifth is to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which again is a tough committee to be on. So Mr. Olinsky comes to us with a background in law, a very, very good background in law. And the committee felt that he would be a perfect fit with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I will make it in the form of a motion that we appoint Jared Olinsky to the Zoning Board of Appeals through December 31st, 2017. And it was 3-0 in this committee that we bring forth the nomination.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second for the approval of Jared Olinsky for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Additional comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion passes.
Phew, thank you. Our next meeting will be February 18th at 5:45 for the one appointment, which I will make a motion now that we send down to the appointment subcommittee of Paul Novak for the Nashwauk Pond Committee.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to move the appointment of Paul Nowak to the Nashwauk Pond Committee. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes my report tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Ordinance, Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next meeting will be February 11th at 6 p.m., and I imagine it'll be somewhere in the basement.
Okay. Okay.
The furnace room.
That concludes.
Okay, concludes. Property, Councilor Ziegler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening. That concludes.
Okay, and we have no old business. We took care of new business, so I want to
Move
take
to
a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion passes.
Thanks for the shop.